Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. So today is super exciting for me. It's a little bit different as I talk about seminar because I actually wasn't in seminar this past week. I was flying and visiting New York City. I was attending the Consortium of Universities for Global Health conference, and I was presenting some research that I did in Tanzania at the University of Calgary Global Health Field School from May of 2017. So a really amazing opportunity to discuss my experiences as a student researcher on a more experiential platform, and one that is quite esteemed given the high attendance numbers and the expertise that was there and present. So really amazing opportunity, and some aha moments that I had there are ones that I want to share with you today. So the first aha moment I wanted to talk about was pertaining to a plenary speaker from South America, and she was involved in HPV and cervical cancer screening. So in her particular country, I can't remember which one, there were high levels of cervical cancer, high levels of mortality as a result of cervical cancer for women, but very low levels of HPV screening. So her role was to find ways and programs to involve women and empower them in seeking out pap smears as a means of ensuring that they have those particular services available to them, that they're actually accessing those services, and that these power barriers between a service provider or even a barrier of geographical logistics won't stop a woman from seeking her care. So there's a huge role for shifting power and putting power back into the hands of the people and feeling as though those people were empowered to make health decisions. So what they did is they actually went into communities to deliver talks about cervical testing and pap smears, and women were actually given the tools, both the knowledge and the material kits, to perform their own pap smears and then to have ways of sending those tests back for diagnostic testing. So women didn't necessarily feel ashamed or unsure of access, but rather were given opportunities to feel empowered in seeking care, and then also getting the information back so that they could make informed decisions about their health. And what I mean by getting that information back, quite ingenious, was these labs who were doing the cervical tests actually were able to send results back via SMS messaging. So right to an individual's phone so that they could read whether or not that they were fine or if they needed to come in for further discussion with their physician. And what this plenary speaker was talking about there is passing the baton on to the next generation. So high levels of social media use and technology use, and being able to use that technology and mobilize it for health purposes, which I think fits in very well with the discussion that was happening in Calgary surrounding syndemics and e-health. The second aha moment, but rather just a recognition that what we're learning in 591 really does matter on a global scale, was just a discussion of power dynamics between physicians, nurses, and on a larger level between North and South powers or countries. So there was a discussion in one of the concurrent sessions I attended on the weaponization of healthcare in Syria, pertaining to the need for countries to define what kind of healthcare workers they need and want, rather than having an imposed agenda from a northern, more affluent country coming in and kind of determining what healthcare providers are needed based on what is familiar to them. So as much as physicians and nurses are really necessary and integral parts of healthcare teams, having community health workers or workers that are more disseminated in rural areas might be a better idea, and one that's not necessarily gravitated to by northern powers for countries that might not have the same social or a materialistic capital, or even having human resources to facilitate a full centralized facility. So some notes that I took just based on that discussion were pertaining to more affluent or developed countries' views of healthcare workers and facilities in developing countries. So they were talking about a lack of skills, a failure of health workers understanding their profile in the system, scattered responsibilities, and then a neglect of their non-clinical skills. So should that be communication, administration, and the like. So I feel like having areas for collaboration with North and South is particularly important. However, the responsibility on defining how that collaboration takes place needs to be placed and given back to the country in which those discussions are taking place. So most often the developing country. So my last aha moment, not necessarily an aha moment, but rather something that's making me really excited for continued study in the field of global health, is all this amazing literature I got while I was there. So a lot of the things, like I got this big Lancet, the Global Burden of Disease study, and some other reading from the conference. But I also took a day trip to the UN, and I got some really amazing materials here. And one that I really am excited about, and that fits really well into the context of this week's topic, which is syndemics and e-health, is this one from UNICEF, which is Children in a Digital World. So a few things I just wanted to talk about with regards to this report are opportunities versus consequences of digitalized worlds and globalization. So to start off with the promise of connectivity, some of the things that were discussed are the fact that having access to the online world provides people with greater access to a digital economy, so diversifying their economic reach, and also having access to materials or services like Bitcoin, for example. Other things had to do with the potential to recognize that digital access to material can actually benefit individuals in terms of finding solutions or opportunities for their community. So looking up something on Google might be really easy for us, and that can really help bolster our sense of responsibility and understanding of our community. And that just goes to show that that could also have really positive effects for developing communities as well. And then also pertaining to education, we've been really fortunate here to have computers in almost all of our grades of learning throughout primary, secondary, post-secondary, and having those same resources for educational settings in developing countries can really enhance the learning opportunities for students, and can also really enhance the learning materials for professors and teachers. And then in terms of the harms of life online, some of the key points that were brought up in this manual just had to do with being very wary of vulnerable individuals online. So to what extent are people at risk for malicious content or software? To what extent are they vulnerable for trafficking or being taken advantage of? And some other really scary things that I think put vulnerable people at even more of a disadvantage should they not have proper safeguards or education regarding life online. So I think that as much as there are all of these amazing benefits that can come from diversifying and enhancing a community with digitalization or involvement of the online platform, there's also a lot of really important education that has to come surrounding an individual's interaction with the World Wide Web. So those are kind of some of my key learnings from this week, and I really hope that you enjoyed hearing about what I did learn, even if it's just a little piece. And I also hope to have further opportunities in the future in terms of conferences and learning on a more interactive platform, because this was such a rich learning experience for me. So stay tuned for next week as we discuss further concepts of global health, and I hope that you'll join me on that learning adventure as well. So take care. Goodbye.